NBIA, Natural Bioscience Intelligence Agency. What you're about to hear is a science podcast told as a spy thriller. The science is real. The mission is yours.
6 hours. That's the window before the morning distribution shipment leaves the processing hub. 31 states, hospital gift shops, natural food chains. The label says clean energy. The mechanism says otherwise.
Status on the countermeasure.
Confirmed on site. Raw Cucurbita pepo. The Chinampas have been growing it for 7,000 years. The processing facility has been destroying the mechanism for about 40. I'm pulling samples now.
It's not just this beverage. The adenosine-cortisol combination is appearing across the functional wellness category. Energy shots, focus water, adaptogen blends with subtherapeutic botanicals on the label, and 160 milligrams of synthetic caffeine underneath. The pattern is the product.
And the consumer buys more product to cope with the sleep they're not getting.
Biochemistry is indifferent to opinion, Viper. The HPA axis doesn't care what the marketing team decided to call it. The cortisol pulse fires, whether the consumer reads the label or not. The solution is also real and specific. You'll have it before this episode ends. 14 hours earlier, Geneva.
Polyphenol extract from the previous operation. Xochimilco confirmed as the transit point for the new target. The Chinampa growers know exactly what we're looking for.
Set it down. Ghost, give me the scope.
70 million Americans report chronic sleep disruption. The trajectory is not flattening. It's accelerating, and the inflection point corresponds, almost precisely, with the mass market entry of the functional beverage category. Not correlation. Temporal alignment with biochemical plausibility. Long term, we are looking at cardiovascular sequelae, accelerated metabolic dysfunction, elevated all-cause mortality. Sleep is not recovery. Sleep is infrastructure. Damage it systematically, and the chronic disease burden follows on a 20-year lag.
Frost, the mechanism on the threat compound.
Before I give you the pathway, an analogy. Think of adenosine as a fatigue debt collector. Every hour you're awake, adenosine accumulates in your brain. By evening, it's knocking on the door insistently. Caffeine doesn't pay the debt. It puts a barricade across the door. The collector is still there. The debt is still accumulating. When the barricade falls, and it does, the collector gets in all at once. That's the crash. The formulator's compound doesn't stop there. Here's the mechanism. Synthetic caffeine at 160 milligrams, the functional beverage category standard. Adenosine receptor blockade, A1 and A2A subtypes, both blocked simultaneously, standard. But the undisclosed phosphoric acid buffer in this formulation extends gastric absorption half-life by approximately 40%. Standard caffeine peaks and clears. This one doesn't.
Frost, when you say it extends the half-life, does that mean the caffeine itself stays in the system longer or something else?
The phosphoric acid buffer slows gastric emptying, the rate at which the compound reaches the small intestine for absorption. Slower delivery means a delayed plasma peak and an extended tail. The caffeine is still being absorbed at hour 4 when standard caffeine would already be clearing, but the more significant mechanism is the secondary cortisol pulse. That's the operation. Caffeine activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, triggering cortisol secretion as a downstream effect. Normally, cortisol follows a diurnal rhythm. High in the morning, natural nadir by evening. Consumed at noon, this compound produces a secondary cortisol pulse that doesn't clear for 12 to 16 hours post-ingestion. That places the cortisol elevation precisely at the sleep onset window.
The adenosine blockade clears by hour 8. The cortisol doesn't.
Correct. The consumer feels the caffeine wear off. They do not feel the cortisol. They stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. They never connect it to what they drank at noon. The formulator connected it 4 years ago.
And cortisol at the sleep window suppresses melatonin synthesis directly. The serotonin to melatonin conversion in the pineal gland requires a cortisol nadir. Elevated cortisol interrupts the enzymatic sequence at the rate-limiting step. The biological clock cannot resynchronize. The ceiling stare is physiologically enforced.
The adaptogen on the label.
Present at sub-therapeutic dose, ashwagandha, in this formulation. Therapeutic range for HPA axis modulation is 300 to 600 milligrams standardized extract. The label contains 40. It does nothing. It is there to justify the word adaptogen in the marketing. This is intentional.
The countermeasure.
Cucurbita pepo, pumpkin seed, 3 active compounds working in sequence. L-tryptophan, the direct biosynthetic precursor to serotonin. Zinc, the cofactor for ANAT, the rate-limiting enzyme that converts serotonin to melatonin in the pineal gland. And magnesium, which addresses the cortisol problem directly. Magnesium antagonizes the NMDA receptor and suppresses HPA axis activity, clearing the biochemical interference that elevated cortisol created. Tryptophan provides the raw material. Zinc enables the conversion. Magnesium removes the roadblock. The mechanism doesn't sedate. It restores the sequence the noon beverage disrupted.
And the field distinction matters here. Roasting temperature.
High-temperature roasting oxidizes the zinc-binding compounds in pumpkin seeds, degrading bioavailability. Raw or lightly dried seeds preserve the mechanism. The distinction is invisible at retail. Most product on shelf is compromised at the source.
Viper. Xochimilco. Go.
The Chinampas are floating islands, literal agricultural platforms built from mud and vegetation in the lake basin. The Aztecs engineered them. The families working them now are direct descendants of the people who did. Cucurbita pepo has been cultivated here continuously for over 7,000 years. This is not a discovery. This is a memory that survived everything the processed food industry tried to replace it with. The grower's name is irrelevant. What's relevant is the drying rack behind the canal shed raw seeds, air-dried, not roasted, the zinc-binding compounds intact. Exactly what the mechanism requires.
Viper. Confirm the tryptophan density. You're looking for seeds with a pale cream-green hull, not fully dehulled. The hull protects the fat-soluble zinc complexes during drying.
Confirmed. Lightly dried, hull intact. L-tryptophan, concentration, and zinc, both present in operative form. I have the sample.
One detail I want confirmed before the molecular sequence. N3 bioavailability enhancement protocol for L-tryptophan crossing the blood-brain barrier, competing amino acid interference. What's the intervention?
L-tryptophan enters the brain via the large neutral amino acid transporter LAT1, which is shared with 5 competing amino acids: leucine, isoleucine, valine, phenylalanine, tyrosine. Insulin selectively clears branched-chain amino acids from circulation following carbohydrate ingestion, reducing competition at the transporter. A small complex carbohydrate co-ingestion, 15 to 20 grams, increases tryptophan's proportional transport share by approximately 40 to 60% without requiring a large glycemic load.
That's the delivery mechanism. Frost confirm for field protocol.
Confirmed. 1 ounce of raw pumpkin seeds, consumed 1 hour before sleep, paired with a small complex carbohydrate, a few crackers, a piece of sourdough, a handful of oats. The carbohydrate opens the channel, the tryptophan crosses, the sequence initiates. The seed is consumed 1 hour before sleep. A small complex carbohydrate alongside it, the carbohydrate triggers insulin release, which selectively clears the competing amino acids from blood circulation. The channel opens. L-tryptophan is absorbed through intestinal epithelial cells via LAT1. It enters circulation. It moves toward the blood-brain barrier, the body's most selective checkpoint. The competing amino acids have been cleared. Tryptophan steps forward. The transporter accepts it. It crosses. It arrives at the Raphi nucleus, the brain's serotonin production center. Tryptophan hydroxylase acts first, converting it to 5-hydroxytryptophan 5-HTP. Aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase completes the conversion to serotonin. The neurotransmitter is now present. The night sequence can begin. As light fades, the retina signals the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The pineal gland receives its instruction. AANAT, aralkylamine, N-acetyltransferase, the rate-limiting enzyme is activated, and here is where zinc becomes the operative. Zinc is the cofactor that allows AANAT to function. Without it, the enzyme stalls. With it, serotonin is acetylated into N-acetylserotonin. HIOMT completes the final conversion. Melatonin is synthesized. Melatonin binds MT1 and MT2 receptors in the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The cortisol signal, still circulating from a noon beverage, still elevated, still interfering, meets a system that is no longer waiting for permission. The biological clock resynchronizes. The ceiling becomes irrelevant. The window closes.
Sample secured. Distribution documentation photographed. I have the supply chain origin for the phosphoric acid buffer supplier, routed through a flavor compounding house in New Jersey. They service 14 beverage brands in the functional wellness category.
Forward, the documentation to Frost. 14 brands means 14 labels. We'll need compound analysis on each. The phosphoric acid buffer is the signature. If it's present, the HPA cortisol pulse is present. The sleep disruption is present. The consumer is already in the cycle and doesn't know it.
The melatonin supplement market is worth $900 million annually. The precursor that allows the body to produce its own costs less than $2 a week at any grocery store. That's not a gap in consumer knowledge. That's a gap maintained by design.
Raw seeds. Hull intact. 1 ounce. 1 hour before sleep. With a small carbohydrate. The Aztecs didn't need a label to know that.
So the only thing standing between someone and their own melatonin production is whether they buy roasted seeds or raw ones?
And whether they know the difference, which, until now, most people didn't. The processing distinction is never disclosed at retail. It is the most important variable and the least visible one. Steal, intercepted transmission, partial decrypt, the formulator.
Gut lining permeability confirmed at scale. Tight junction disruption window, 90 minutes post-ingestion. The inflammatory payload is the product. Routing through premium, ancient grain category. Margin is exceptional.
Ancient grain, tight junction disruption. That's intestinal permeability, leaky gut at population scale. He's already in the next category. He's already 3 moves ahead.
The downstream consequences of chronic intestinal permeability are systemic. Inflammatory cascades, autoimmune sequelae, neuroinflammation. He's not targeting sleep anymore. He's targeting the barrier itself.
Frost pull everything on tight junction protein integrity. Zonulin, occludin. Any compound with peer-reviewed disruption data appearing in the ancient grain supply chain in the last 18 months. Ghost, I want longitudinal data on inflammatory bowel incidents against premium grain product market penetration. Viper, you're going to need different boots for the next one.
Already packed.
Operation. The sleep protocol is closed. Mission 004 is authorized.
Everything you're about to hear has been published in peer-reviewed research. I'm going to give you the mechanism, the study, and the exact dose in plain language. L-tryptophan, present in high density in raw pumpkin seeds, is the direct biosynthetic precursor to serotonin. Serotonin, in the pineal gland, is converted to melatonin, but only when 2 conditions are met. Sufficient tryptophan is available, and the enzyme ANAT has its cofactor, zinc, present and functional. Elevated evening cortisol from a noon dose of sustained-release synthetic caffeine blocks this conversion at the enzymatic step. Pumpkin seed provides both the precursor and the cofactor simultaneously. The pathway restores itself. The body produces its own melatonin from its own precursor on its own schedule. Published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, 2011. Rondinelli and colleagues, 100 subjects with primary insomnia. Combined supplementation with L-tryptophan, melatonin, and zinc produced significant improvements in sleep quality, morning alertness, and total sleep time versus placebo. Pumpkin seeds are one of the densest whole food sources of both L-tryptophan and bioavailable zinc simultaneously in a single food. 1 ounce, 28 grams of raw pumpkin seeds, consumed 1 hour before sleep, paired with a small complex carbohydrate. The carbohydrate triggers insulin release, which clears competing amino acids from circulation and opens the blood-brain barrier transporter for tryptophan. The detail the industry doesn't want you to know: the melatonin supplement market is worth $900 million annually. The whole food precursor that allows your body to produce its own melatonin costs less than $2 a week at any grocery store. The processing distinction is the variable. Roasted seeds have oxidized zinc-binding compounds. Raw or lightly dried seeds preserve the mechanism. Check the label. Or don't buy the one with a label. At retail, look for Styrian pumpkin seeds, specifically an heirloom hull-less variety, naturally dark green, with the highest concentration of magnesium and intact zinc complexes of any commercially available pumpkin seed. Terrasol Superfoods carries them raw and organic. At a natural food market bulk bin, the color is your verification. Deep, vibrant green means the magnesium and chlorophyll are intact. Dusty olive brown means heat processing has already done the damage. Avoid anything labeled dry roasted or oil roasted. Those temperatures compromise the magnesium-zinc complexes the mechanism depends on. Raw, Styrian if available. 1 ounce, 1 hour before sleep, with a small complex carbohydrate. That's the protocol. NBIA, Truth and Transparency in Human Health.